Welcome to Talkin' Maine with the Bowtie Boy. I'm Tom Saviello, and I got this blue guy over here. Are you from Boston, the Blue Man crew?
No, Tom.
You are?
Rich Wild.
Rich, it's always a pleasure to have you back on again. Talk about the Blue Crew. But like I said before, the first thing everybody needs to know is what you do for scholarships, and I will mention that every time you come on the show. He works over at Ron's Market, and the money he makes that day, he gives to scholarships. How many scholarships have you given?
Right now it's over 50.
Wow, and thank you. Because that's what this community to me is always about, and you're part of that community, and I'm sure those students are proud. Maybe someday I can get one of those scholarships. Probably not.
Possible.
Well, tell me, you've been on before, but let's get a little update. So let's talk about what the Blue Crew is and how it's come about, and then some of the things you've done, and most recently had a big success. And then we have some of the Blue Crew here themselves to talk about that,
they'll be talking about
including the captain.
Yes, including the captain.
All right. So tell us, what is the Blue Crew? Or how does this come about through Foster Tech and everything else?
Well, the Blue Crew started in 2016 when Mitch Gilliam came to me and asked me to be the coach of a new robotics team. And I turned him down. And I told him, it's $20,000 a year to compete. I says, with the budget fights that we've been having the past few years, I know that the school board wouldn't approve any new expenditures. And I says, but if you can come back with a plan where we can fund it for 3 years, I'll be interested. A week later, he came back with a plan.
Wow.
And I said, sure, let's try it. And that first year, we exceeded our expectations, to put it bluntly. We went down to Rhode Island and we won our first competition. We were the rookie all-star for every single event that we went to, up until the district championships, and then we went to the world championships. And the success was great, but it also came at a price. We ended up the year with being down $6,000. Now, the students had a choice at this point. They could, say, yeah, that was fun, and fold. But no, they decided to double down, and they went out and they bought a business, a root beer float stand that was previously run by the Hinckley Family Association, and they sold it to the Blue Crew, and they worked their butts off that summer. And by the end of the summer, they had paid off the $6,000 that we had owed, and it also paid for the business as well.
No kidding.
So, I mean, it shows you the work ethic that's involved in these kids. And every year, we've gotten better and better. We had our first recognized robot 3 years ago, when we won the Industrial Design Award for one of our robots, which, the Industrial Design Award is the epitome of engineering. It says that you've built a robust robot that looks good. This year's robot, Juggernaut, won the virtual competition that we had during 2021. And was one of the few robots to actually participate in the real game before COVID shut us down.
Wow.
So it's a very good robot, and I'm going to have some team members on a little bit later. They'll talk about all the things.
I think what Andre plans to do is take you actually outside and maybe we'll show some of that going on while we talk through this. Yeah. One thing I want to say to the students, you've done a phenomenal job, and this also supports some of the things that I've seen as they grow older. When my son went to California as a Mainer, he got hired all the time. The reason is because they know how to work. Yes. They showed up on time, they did their job, they did a lot of they didn't need a lot of help knowing what they had to do, and they got it done. So this continues to prove the kind of students we're putting out of Mount Blue and so forth. So thank you for guiding them there, but it doesn't surprise me at all. Challenge them and they will make it happen.
Yes, and that's one of the things I've noticed about the kids that are on the team is they seem to rise to every challenge. We had already committed ourselves to the Farmington Fest. And about 3 weeks ago, we found out that there was going to have a in-person robotics tournament down in Worcester, Mass. And I mentioned it to the team. I says, well, we can't go to the first day, but we can go to the second day. And I says, you know, this is what's going to entail. You're going to be working all day Saturday. You have to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning. You're going to go down to Worcester and compete and not get back until probably 9 o'clock that night. Who wants to go? Every hand went up. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to do that. I was working at Ron's Market for some strange reason. And so they went down, and like I'm watching them on Twitch. I'm watching every match. I mean, it was a very busy day at Ron's that day. And they ended up doing incredibly well, which our second guest, my second student, Emily, who is our team captain, she'll tell you about how we did down there.
Wow, that's great. So is this robot that we're going to probably, it may be running in the background as we're talking right now as Andre blends it in there. What does that, so Emily will talk to us about what that robot does then.
Actually, I'm going to have Chandler tell you about the robot itself.
Okay.
Emily's our team captain. She can tell you about everything else because it's not just the robot. This program entails so much more than just a robot. You are basically building an engineering company.
Wow.
You have to, you're given the specs for the product. You have to come up with the product, and you have to market the product. And that's what we do with our robot. I mean, the season starts on the first Saturday in January. That's when they reveal the game. They'll show you the game itself and what the robot has to do to score points. And in that game, there'll be one thing that every single robot should be able to do. There'll be one thing that 2/3 of the robots should be able to do. And then finally, there'll be one thing that only 1/3 of the robots should be able to do. And one of our design things for this year's robot is to make sure that we could do that hardest thing first.
Wow.
And you'll see that when we came up with a unique solution, and it really works. We've got a robot that's only 38 inches tall, but will reach up and grab a bar that's 5 foot 3 inches off the ground and pull itself up.
Now, didn't the other robot that you brought on one time, didn't that have the ability to pull itself up too?
Yeah, they like using that. Yeah, they like seeing how students are going to pull itself up. Yeah. And that one used a different technique. We used a winch on that one. They would drop a rope, and we'd grab the rope, and we'd just pull itself up. So it looks like the robot's literally driving right straight up in the air. But this one, part of it was you could have 3 robots on the bar. And so what they would try, you would try and balance the bar. So it's not a hoist. You really need to be able to grab it and stay level to help your teammates out.
Now, how many students do you have that are involved in this club?
Right now, we're really lean. We only have about 8 members right now. And there's a lot of them that are gone for the summer, so we have about 5 that are that competed down in Worcester and are really active.
So, but you'll be back in school, and hopefully, we'll start recruiting and
recruiting and getting some more students in. The good news is we don't have a senior on our team this year, so we're going to have continuity for at least 1 more year. So.
Wow. That's fantastic. And your fundraising, does the root beer float stand pay for it all, or do people make contributions?
No. We wish it did. Okay. Basically, the plan that Mitch came up with, and we've instituted it with the exception of one part, and we're working on that one part, was Mitch said that he did some research, and he found the most successful teams were 1/3 funded by corporate sponsors, 1/3 funded by the team fundraisers and raising money, and 1/3 by the school. We have two parts of that. We're just looking for the school part.
That's a hard part to get to.
Yeah, and I understand, and I fully understand the constraints, being a teacher, but at the same time, we've proven our viability.
Yeah, I think
and
so.
we have, in 6 years, we've had 10 awards in 6 years. So, I mean, the team is definitely doing very well.
So, do you get any awards for the root beer floats?
Not yet. We keep hoping.
Oh, maybe the Blueberry Festival you'll get one.
Yes.
So why don't we take a 2-minute break here and let's bring Chandler on. So
all right.
Bring Chandler. You stay where you are. We'll bring the other chair in. So we'll take a break and we'll bring Chandler Pike on to tell us about how Joel made it all work. Oh, so come on on, Chan. Well, welcome back. We've got Chandler Pike on here. We found out Chandler can count to 30, and he knows his ABCs. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me, Tom.
Great to have you here. I knew you when you were about this big.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, you've gotten a little bigger.
A bit.
Probably because you're on the blue team, blue
Yes,
crew.
that's why.
So, Rick, I understand he's going to tell us a little bit about the game, I believe, and the robot itself. Correct? So go ahead, Chan, take it over.
Okay, so this year's game, it's called Infinite Recharge, which is based off, it's sponsored by Star Wars, and it's based a bit off of Star Wars because there's a shield generator in the game. And so pretty much we're given the game in the first Saturday of January every year, where they give us the full 180-page game manual, and they show us a little video of what it's going to look like animated. So this year, there's about 60 or so dodgeballs that are all around the field, and you have to get them into this small hexagonal goal that's on the field. So we decided we needed a way to shoot them somewhere. So we were prototyping, and we decided on a flywheel mechanism, which has 2 counter-rotating wheels that spin at a really high RPM and shoot it off into the goal from anywhere in the front court of the field. And we saw, since it was a very small goal, we thought we would need a way to aim it into different places. So we built a turret onto the robot. It was one of the hardest things we built in our short career, because turrets they're very finicky with how accurate you need to make them and the small control you need. So we built a turret onto the robot that had a vision tracking mechanism that could track it from anywhere on the field. So we can be parked sideways and then still aim and shoot at the goal, which is one of the coolest things I've seen on a robot, that we can just park somewhere and it'll find it itself instead of having to rotate our whole robot. And like Mr. Wild said here, we also have a climber on the robot because there's a chin-up bar on the field that we have a chain-powered mechanism that goes up and grabs onto the bar, and it can lift us the whole robot's weight. And the robot weighs about 150 pounds. It's one of the more difficult things you can do on a field, as opposed to just like climbing up on a ramp, that doing the full chin-up, because you need to be able to lift the whole robot's weight. And then with the balancing bar this year, there's the issue of, because the bar tilts like this, so if you're on the bottom end, the robot actually touches the ground because it's a smaller height. So you need to really rely on talking to your alliance partners and the other robots around you to be able to ensure you can get that bar balanced, because it gets you a boatload of points if you're actually climbing.
Wow. So this all came in this manual that told you have to do those 3 activities, something with the balance beam, something with lifting, and something with throwing, basically. And so then did they give you, but you then take that and do your own design of how you want to make that work?
We go through a strategy process at the beginning of every season, and we look at similar games from the past, because FIRST has been going since 1992. And there's been plenty of years where they've used shooters for dodgeballs and climbing different bars. So we knew that there was stuff in the past that we could look at. For shooting, the most recent game was in 2016, which was actually our team's rookie year, where it was a bit bigger than the balls this year, only by a couple inches or so radius. That we looked at shooters from that year, and also shooters from a year that they shot wiffle balls for different turret ideas, that we took those and we started prototyping based on those. Because if it's worked in the past, it has good applications today. And there's been games in the past that had the bar. I think the 2016 also had a bar, but it didn't level like that. So we looked at climbers where they used hook mechanisms that were on an elevator that could go up and down. And we took the elevator idea from a different elevator that we built. In 2019, our robot had an elevator that could reach 8 feet in the air to score game pieces on a really high tower. And we used ideas from that with a rolling roller bearing system that could go up and down. We'd power it that way.
So where do you get all the parts to build this thing?
Lots of online orders. McMaster-Carr. There's a few first vendors like Vex Robotics. They sell a lot of the parts that we use. And Andy Mark is another good one. West Coast Products, and they're designed for first teams to buy parts. And there's a lot of specifically commercially designed parts that make it, like the turret that we bought. We bought it from a vendor that sells turrets for FRC teams. So it saved a lot of design process on our part because we don't have the greatest machining capability, unlike the big companies that we can actually buy from.
So your prototypes, you build all of this stuff and then you go out and you program it. That has to all be done by you guys. You can't buy that program.
Yeah, programming is, every year that you can create a program, and FIRST actually allows you to build off of it the next year as long as you publish it online. So we have a online code repository that we keep all of our code year to year, so we can keep building off of it. So it's a constant iterative process every year on our code. That, like this year we had to do a lot of vision tracking code. That was brand new for most of us because we had dipped our feet in the waters before, but this time we dived all the way in with vision tracking. So that's how the code pretty much works. It's a constant process.
By putting it on the net, making it public, basically anybody can use it if they want to, and then you just add to it all the time. And as a result of that, you're able to continue to use that base code for anything you do in the future.
And also, with all the teams that are putting it online, it allows us to look at what other teams do. And because there's some incredible teams that are programmed by like Boston Dynamics, and they have mentors that help those teams out. And we can look at theirs and keep working on that way. So we're just constantly getting better year to year.
And that's what you said about the fact that you could look online at what has been done in the past. It wasn't necessarily what you guys did in the past. You could glean off of what other people have done in the past and change that for as you saw you needed to do it. Wow, that's fantastic. Now, you're not really a Mount Blue guy.
I'm not a Mount Blue guy. I'm a senior at the Maine School of Science and Mathematics, but I got involved with this team in my 8th grade year in middle school because I've done robotics since like 4th grade. I was on a state championship Lego League team in my 8th grade in middle school, and my dad mentored the Blue Crew at that point. So I started coming along to practices and seeing how they worked, and I really liked the team's atmosphere and the goals they were going at because they were a second-year team at that point. So I started coming to events with them. I ended up making it onto the drive team my freshman year, and I was at Mount Blue for that year, and then I ended up transferring to the Maine School of Science and Math to continue high school. But I come back to Mount Blue on all my extended weekends and over the summer, and I help out with the team and all their fundraisers and designing.
So you'll be making the root beer floats when I show up?
I'll be making root beer floats on Saturday.
And you'll come down and do the axe throwing?
I will.
All right. See. Well, I think we have the captain here, so if we could take a break and we'll let the captain come on. Chandler, good luck. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming on the show. And your folks are really good people.
Thank you.
I've known them a long time. Thanks. All right, we'll take a quick break, and we'll bring them on. Bring the captain on. Well, welcome back. We have the captain on. Captain Emily, you are?
I'm Emily. I'm the captain of the Blue Crew Robotics team.
Cool. And you've been involved with this for quite a while.
Yeah, since my 8th grade year in 2017, I went to a Steamworks event. I think it was off-season. Actually, Chandler, who was on here just before I came on, he was actually doing human player on the field when I was watching from the stands. And it was just such a cool experience that I right then, I'm like, I'm going to join this team as soon as I possibly can.
Cool. So that's what got you going. What's the Steam, what did you call it? The Steam?
Steamworks. It was the first game in 2017.
Oh, wow. So what else can you tell us about being on this team? What's the team like and so forth as the captain?
Really, all the people are absolutely amazing. There's not a single person on that team that I wouldn't spend time outside of school with. They're all just so nice. And really, I think what most people think when they hear, oh, it's a robotics team, that all you're really doing is building a robot. But it's so much more than that. I am deeply involved in the business and everything. So I send out messages to get sponsors. I arrange all of our events that we go to. You have to get hotels, plan meals, transportation. It's really just so far beyond building a robot. And also these shirts that we're wearing, we had to design them and get them printed. And
I think you need to change that to a blue shirt with a bow, very bow tie, but that's okay. Go ahead.
We actually also have sweatshirts, and we design buttons, like little pins to wear.
For yourselves or to sell to people so that you can use some of that money? Now, the business, I take it, is the root beer float business.
Yes. We wear the pins at events, but also we have a bin out with R2, our R2 Bluetooth robot. That
And I think that robot's been here.
Yeah.
R2,
Yeah.
yes.
And we give those pins out to other teams. There are actually members of the first community that collect pins at events. You'll see people walking around with vests and scarves, and they're just coated in buttons.
Oh, that's pretty cool. So the business, you're actually then calling the hotels, making all the arrangements, and then taking care of the books for the business?
Yeah.
So what's the biggest challenge with the business? So this is multifaceted. So it's not only the engineering side; it's actually running a business, which helps finance your costs that are included. So tell me what your biggest challenge in the business is.
Really, I think the biggest challenge is managing all of it. There's just so much to do. You always have something to do. Nobody is ever sitting around. There's always a list on the whiteboard that we're crossing stuff off, pointing up, we're going to do this today, and on the robot and in the business. So really just managing all of it, making sure that everything is all set before we go to an event or a fundraising event.
So doing this, what's the biggest piece that you've learned so far?
I've learned so much from being on the team. Before I joined, I had no idea anything to do with a robot, but all the mentors and the upperclassmen, they really taught me everything I know. Now I'm almost ready to start programming the next robot. I'm going through Solo Learn to do that, and I know so much about electrical. I'm involved in all the design process, and thinking back, I've come so far just in a couple years.
So as you think about what you want to do in the future, do you want to be an engineer or business manager? I can ask that. See, your mom and dad can't. I can.
I am actually thinking about going into the medical field. I don't really know exactly what I'm going to do, but I was thinking about doing biomedical engineering for an undergraduate before going to med school.
Wow. Then you have the robot, she'll push the button and they'll pull our teeth out, or operate our appendix out. Yeah. And you'll just be sitting there, hi Emily, hi. Wow, that's cool. So, Richard, what else can you add about these young people?
I was going to have Emily talk a little bit about the event that we just attended down in Worcester, Mass.
Yes, we went to, this past Sunday, we went to Battle Cry at WPI in Worcester. It really, because of all the COVID restrictions, we only had 10 total members that were allowed to go, and that was including mentors. So it was really quite tight trying to figure out which people were able to go, making sure that we didn't exceed the number. And while we were down there, we actually made it to the finals, which was so exciting considering that we were actually the 5th place alliance out of 6 total alliances, and we consistently were winning our playoff events, and we made it to finals against the #1 alliance at the competition. And it was absolutely incredible. Everybody was so excited. We did end up losing the very last match of our finals just by, I think it was 13 points.
Wow, wow.
And we were just so close. So we were able to bring home a finalist runner-up trophy that we're going to be putting in our case actually today at the meeting today.
Cool. Wow.
And
well, that's pretty cool. So do you get any awards for root beer floats?
We did get an entrepreneurship award the first year that we did it. and that was super exciting. Just the judges that walk around the pits and ask us questions, they were so impressed on how far we've come, how much we were able to actually buy this business and make it run just on our own.
And you just branded the business too, correct? So what's its branding? What is it called? What'd you brand it as?
It's Blue Crew Robotics root beer floats. But when I left on Thursday, we had a empty facade. There was no letters on it.
Yeah.
We show up for our first event up in Rangeley, and Emily comes in with this big bag, and she has the Blue Crew emblem, and they stapled that on, and they did all the lettering, and they had cut it out on a laser printer, and it looks absolutely wonderful.
Well, I did see it at the Farmington Fest, or Summerfest, but I'll get to see all of it up there. Emily, anything you'd like to add just as we get ready to close the show?
I think I'll say that if there is absolutely anybody who is willing to join our team, you don't have to know everything about robotics to join. Just if you're interested, if you want to do something that is just so fun and such a wonderful experience and teaches you so many things that you will use in your future, just show up and we will teach you everything that you need to know.
Super. That's great. Richard, anything you want to say?
I think that's pretty well said right there.
Well, thank you both for coming on.
Thank you, Tom.
Good luck in the future. And when you win some more awards, you'll have to come back on and tell us about that. And I will look forward to my root beer float. What time are you starting? Noontime?
I think it's noontime, yes.
Right after the parade. So thanks for coming.
Thank
Thanks
you
for
so
tuning
much
in
for
to
having us.
Talkin' Maine, and we'll see you next time.